Listen closely. In football, reputations are demolished in a week and rebuilt in a heartbeat. One plane ticket, one dressing room, 7 games that flip a career on its head. This is the story of a forward everyone said was finished, a player benched, doubted, and pushed toward the exit until Barcelona handed him a jersey and a runway. What followed wasn't a comeback, it was a reawakening. And if he reaches the number he's chasing, he won't just silence the pundits who mocked him, he'll force a permanent rewrite of his legacy. Marcus Rashford landed in Spain with a suitcase, a clause, and a promise to himself. 30 to 40 goal contributions before June 30th. The exact date his loan ends. Hit that number, and Barcelona will have no choice but to pay the fee already on paper. Miss it, and he returns to the noise that nearly swallowed him whole. High stakes, no guarantees. Many called the loan desperate. A quick patch after another target slipped through the net. Those voices didn't last long. He started with something simple. Running free again, not the heavy-legged, second-guessing runs of a player playing to prove people wrong, but the kind of movement that says, "This pitch belongs to me." On the left flank, the grass opened up like an invitation. The first step was electric. The second had defenders turning their hips. By the third, he was already deciding, cut inside and whip or drag the line deeper, and thread a pass to the runner, slicing between centre-back and full-back. In 7 straight matches, he produced goals, assists, and a reminder that confidence isn't a luxury, it's a weapon. Barcelona didn't just give him minutes, they handed him a structure that needed exactly what he offers: verticality, a runner who breaks lines without the ball, and a one-touch decision-maker who won't hold possession for applause. On the right, Lamine Yamal churned chaos. In the middle, Pedri stitched and unstitched the opposition's seams. And on the left, Rashford became the blade that turned good positions into decisive moments. The team's rhythm tilted toward him without trying. When he dropped a shoulder, the stadium leaned forward. When he ghosted between defenders, midfields panicked. When the first touch fell clean, finishing became routine again. It wasn't always like that. In England, doubts stacked up like yellow cards. He'd been late once, disciplined once, debated endlessly. The off-field noise was loud, too loud, and the on-field product started to carry that weight. A new manager arrived at his boyhood club, declared a new standard, and left him out in the cold for week after week. 11 straight matches with no path back. The team needed goals. The one forward with a history of delivering them sat on the bench, digging splinters into his palms. It wasn't tactical nuance. It felt like a line in the sand, and Rashford found himself on the wrong side of it, so he left. And in Barcelona, all the things people claimed he wasn't — consistent, efficient, mature — reappeared like they'd been waiting just behind a locked door. This wasn't a highlight reel stitched together with stepovers and fireworks. It was economy of movement. A glance over his shoulder to measure the centre-back's blind spot. A 3-meter deceleration that buys him the half second to slide a cutback into a perfect zone. A shoulder-to-shoulder duel he wins, not to show strength, but to deliver the next pass at exactly the right weight. Everything purposeful, everything tilted toward the next advantage. His teammates recognized it immediately. You could see it in the passes they chose. When the ball broke loose on the counter, the first look was left. When the fullback carried forward and needed an outlet, the angle was preloaded, even on set pieces. A place where he's rarely been the headline, he started to matter, whipping corners and outswingers that begged for a final touch. 2 set-piece assists later, it was clear. He wasn't just the runner at the end of a move, he was the initiator. Watch one sequence and you understand the whole. Barcelona broke out from deep. A midfielder lifted his head and saw Rashford sprinting, but not aimlessly. He began fast, then eased off, reading the centre-back's panic and staying level to avoid the offside trap. Instead of forcing a shot at the near post, he slowed in the box, scanned, and chose the late runner, rolling a cutback that turned into a simple finish. Not a spectacular moment, a correct one, and that's what changed the conversation. The old criticisms, rushes his shots, puts his head down, disappears in big decisions, started to sound dated. If you've followed his career, you know the shot. Left side, cutting in, body angled, that whip through the ball that sends it bending and rising in the same breath. It's not luck, it's muscle memory and timing. A technical pattern he can execute without a full wind-up. Barcelona face deep blocks every other week. Opponents park bodies in the box and dare you to find the gap. His strike punishes that cynicism. Close the passing lanes and he'll create a shooting lane. Step out to meet him, and you've just opened space for Yamal, or the late run from midfield. The numbers are creeping back to the level that used to define him. Not just goals, but the balance. Shots plus key passes. Carries that end with a chance. Touches that matter. He's not dribbling to entertain. He's dribbling to puncture. 2 or 3 actions that unglue a defensive shape, then a decision. Sometimes that's the ruthless strike. Sometimes it's the disguised pass into the penalty spot. Watching him now, you can almost hear the metronome of his game. Touch, set, release, move. 1 or 2 beats quicker than the defender expects. Critics say he's a moments player. Maybe. But in elite football, moments decide everything. You don't need 10 good minutes, you need 10 good seconds. Rashford understood that again. You can see it in the way he conserves himself for the key sprint. How he times his attack behind the fullback, who's turned his head toward the ball, how he floats on the defender's blind line and then explodes at exactly the instant the passer shapes to deliver. That's not flair, that's craft. He has learned to play all across the front line. It's not marketing spin, it's a genuine, tactical reality. On the left, he's devastating, but he can post up as a 9, back into a centre half, take the contact, and lay off cleanly. For a team that often asks its winger to become a second striker in the box, that adaptability is gold. Heat maps from his recent seasons tell the story, from touchline sprinter to penalty spot presence. Arriving later, arriving smarter, arriving with intent. The result is simple. More shots on target from better positions, no matter where he starts. And if you're looking for the piece that glues it all together, consider this. He's become a quick decision hub. Not a metronome like a deep-lying playmaker, but a switch. The ball arrives, he picks the right option and moves again. That's simple. The tempo lifts because he refuses to give defenders time to set. Barcelona thrive on that speed of thought. Hansi Flick insists his wide players join play quickly and combine in triangles that slice rather than circle. Rashford fits the geometry perfectly. Receive, bounce, spin into space, and reappear where the next damage is done. The respect hasn't kept pace. Maybe it never does until the medals stack up, but you can feel the gap between performance and perception narrowing. At Manchester United, the club's turbulence made it easy to misread individuals. A team that chews up belief can make any forward look wasteful. When the press doesn't trigger, when the midfield can't control the rhythm, the front line ends up chasing shadows. Rashford survived that storm long enough to produce a 30-goal season. And still the benefit of the doubt evaporated the moment a cold streak arrived. Barcelona changed more than his scenery. It reframed his career as a question he could answer himself. No romantic returns, no maybe next season, a fixed date, a hard target, a clause you can measure. 30 to 40 goal contributions, something you can tally on a sheet of paper without arguments about intangibles. He's already rolling, and with every assist, the narrative shifts from maybe to likely. The closer he gets, the harder it becomes to deny the conclusion. He wasn't the problem. He needed the right problem to solve. Let's talk about how he's doing it in detail, in the language defenders feel in their legs. First, the run across the centre-back's face. He starts wide, and as the full-back gets pulled to the ball, he doesn't drive straight. Instead, he ghosts into the channel between full-back and centre-back. That tiny diagonal draws the centre-back a half step toward him. Then he stutters, checks his stride, and bursts again into the gap the check just created. When the pass arrives, the centre-back is neither here nor there. Too close to press, too far to block. It looks simple on replay. It's brutal to live through. Second, the pause inside the box. Many wingers sprint into crowds, collide with the goalkeeper, and invite a block. Rashford has rediscovered the art of breaking. He'll win the race to the angle, then use that final step to open a lane for a pass that no one else has the patience to pick. That's how you turn crowded moments into easy finishes for teammates. That's how you become the squad's top provider without touching the ball 100 times a match. Third, the long-range release. He strikes without ceremony, no dramatic backlift. It's why goalkeepers hate those shots. There's no cue. The ball is off his laces while the keeper is still reading body shape. When opponents sit deep, those strikes are more than highlights, they're bargaining chips. Defenders step out earlier to block the shot, and suddenly the half space opens for a reverse pass. Football at the highest level is a series of forced choices. His shot forces the worst one. Fourth, the counterattack decoy. On transitions, he doesn't always demand the last touch. Sometimes he sprints the outside lane to drag fullbacks away, leaving the channel open for the interior runner. He'll get the ball again on the second phase because he never stops moving after he releases it. Watch closely and you'll see it. The pass goes, the camera follows the ball, and he's already created the next passing option by the time the frame widens. There's also the strength in contact that people forget. Not a bruiser, but he knows how to use his frame. He'll pin a defender just long enough to roll a pass into midfield, then turn and sprint. Barcelona's central players love that outlet. A long ball that doesn't die, a duel that ends with possession instead of a whistle, and a winger who turns a clearance into an attack platform. And yes, there have been set pieces. Corners struck with bite and purpose. It's not glamorous, but it wins points. 2 assists already from those deliveries. Add that to the open play contributions, and you understand why coaches grin when they talk about him. It's not just the headline-grabbing moments. It's the extra 2 or 3 chances per match he manufactures just by being locked in. All of this sits on top of one non-negotiable: fitness. His body looks back to prime. That matters. Those repeats into the box, those 80-meter sprints followed by a touch cleaner than it should be. Those actions require the legs to cooperate with the brain. In Spain, the rhythm of games and the spacing of the press has aligned with his engine. He's not carrying extra weight, figuratively or literally. He looks like a player who trusts his first step again. The criticism that stung most, beyond the noise, was the suggestion that he didn't care, that he wasn't giving everything. You can hear it in the way he's played since arriving. The effort is unmissable. The recovering runs after a turnover. The decision to press back toward the touchline when the fullback advances. The small tactical fouls that break momentum without inviting a card. Those are the actions that dressing rooms respect. Those are the actions that turn a loanee into a teammate. Barcelona's supporters, skeptical at first, started to lean into the romance. The club needed a left-sided force to balance the right. They found one who could both finish and feed. The narrative flipped quickly. From stopgap to indispensable, from maybe he'll help in the short term to we don't look the same without him. That's the power of repetition. Do good things once and they call it form. Do them 7 games in a row and they call it influence. There's a deeper thread too. Rashford's story is a mirror for how football misjudges players who carry the emotional weight of their clubs. Manchester United has been a storm for years, a place where talent can look broken because the structure around it keeps changing. Managers rotate, game models reset, and players bear the blame. It's not an excuse, it's context. Some leave and fly, others stay and survive. Rashford did both. He stayed long enough to prove he could carry the shirt. Then he left to prove he wasn't the problem. International football offered another sharp edge. In Qatar, he lit up the group stage, then watched the knockout matches from the bench. One decision and a tournament tilted differently. That's how fragile these reputations are. But those moments also forge players. There's a composure to him now when he receives the ball in the tightest areas. He doesn't try to solve everything in one touch. He trusts the flow, trusts his instincts, and trusts that the next action will be there if he keeps moving. What comes next? The math is straightforward. Keep stacking contributions. Keep the line moving. 30 to 40 by the deadline, the clause triggers, and the saga ends with a signature and a photograph holding a new contract. But the numbers are the surface. Beneath them is something older and more stubborn, pride, the kind you feel when you prove, not with a tweet or a press conference, but with a pass that carves open a defense, with a strike that makes a stadium gasp, with a run that leaves an international centre back searching for angles that aren't there. Picture the scene that could define the season: a Champions League night, Barcelona locked in a chess match, short on space. The ball breaks to Yamal high on the right. He steals a yard and threads it into the channel. Pedri flips his hips and drifts toward the D, pulling two defenders with him. Rashford delays his run while everyone else sprints, then slides like water into the pocket that hesitation just created. One touch to shape the ball, another to slip it between bodies. A teammate arrives for the tap-in. The stadium doesn't explode so much as exhale. That's the kind of goal he's building a habit of creating. Crafted by timing, finished by the collective, authored by a forward who sees the whole map 2 steps ahead. He's not perfect. No forward is. There will be matches where the final strike kisses the post and stays out, where the cutback skims past studs instead of onto a boot. There will be dry spells and damp pitches and defenders who know his tricks. What matters is that he's doing the things that force probability to bend in his favour, arriving in the right places, taking the right shots, making the right passes. Over a season, that's how you win the argument. And the argument, ultimately, is about respect. Not applause for a purple patch, but recognition that this is a top-level forward who has already shown he can carry a giant club and is now showing he can elevate another. He is not a luxury piece. He is a system accelerator. Put movement around him, and he becomes a multiplier. Give him runners and he feeds them. Give him a yard and he punishes you. Give him a deep block and he shifts the defense with the threat of a strike from 25 yards. Coaches value that versatility because it makes game plans simpler. You can win in more than one way. The redemption label is tempting, but it undersells the truth. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a reversion to the mean for a player whose ceiling was never in doubt, dragged down temporarily by circumstances that would have dimmed almost anyone. It took a new city, a new dressing room, and a new manager to clear the fog. The player didn't change who he is. He remembered. Where does that leave the people who wrote him off? It leaves them behind, watching a highlight package of decisions they said he couldn't make, goals they said he couldn't score anymore, and assists they didn't think he had the patience to deliver. Football moves fast. Criticism becomes content. Content becomes noise. Noise fades the moment the net ripples. What lasts are the numbers, the nights, and the memories that stick. He's making those again, one after the other. If you support the badge on his chest, you're watching a left side that's as frightening as any in Europe. If you support the badge he left behind, you're watching and wondering what might have been if the storm had settled sooner. Either way, you're witnessing a player in full bloom, sprinting against a deadline that he himself drew in the sand. That's rare. That's compelling. That's why the world is paying attention. And to Marcus Rashford himself, the story doesn't end with a clause triggered or a contract signed. It ends with medals, with nights that live forever, with a career narrated not by controversy, but by consequence. Keep delivering. Keep choosing the right action at the right beat. Keep proving that respect isn't asked for, it's taken. If you felt this journey, the doubt, the switch, the surge, stay with us. At Infinite Football, we live for stories like this. Players on the edge, clubs at a crossroads, tactics that turn seasons. If you're new here, subscribe to Infinite Football right now so you don't miss the next chapter. Your support changes everything for this channel, and it lets us keep diving deep into the moments that matter, because this is bigger than a few good weeks. This is the kind of arc that defines a career. The kind that teaches every academy kid watching that setbacks aren't verdicts, and that the right environment can turn a whisper into a roar. One clause, one deadline, one player who refuses to be a footnote. Marcus Rashford isn't waiting for respect anymore, he's taking it. And he's doing it one ruthless decision at a time. If you enjoyed this story, hit subscribe to Infinite Football, drop a like, and tell us where you think he'll finish the season tally. 30? 40? More? We read every comment. We reply. and we'll be here when the next moment arrives, ready to tell it the way it deserves to be told.